Hi, I'm John Armato with another Easy Jazz Spotlight for Easy Jazz FM. And today I'm talking with an extraordinary vocalist and an extraordinary person, Lisa Henry. To the best of my memory, Lisa and I first met and worked together sometime around 1984 in Kansas City. I believe we were playing a gig at a place called Mary Ann's on Main with an incredible B3 player named Everette DeVan. Everett and Lisa were both swinging their butts off, and I was just trying to keep up. But even though this was right at the start of my playing years, I'd already worked with a lot of singers, and I distinctly remember thinking, oh, this one's something special. And she was. But don't take my word for it. Praise for Lisa's sultry voice, swinging sensibilities, and stylish approach to the music has been effusive from some of the jazz world's most respected A-listers, such as Rosemary Clooney, Grady Tate, Herbie Hancock, Kenny Burrell, who simply said, she's got it. And she does got it. Lisa caught their attention and many others in 1994 when she became a winner of the Thelonious Monk International Jazz Vocals Competition. The competition quickly became an elevator ride to rarefied air, and soon she was touring Africa, performing at the Summit of the Americas in Chile for 34 heads of state, and appearing as the Institute's featured vocalist for more than a dozen national jazz education tours. Other highlights include her appearance on international tours through India with Kenny Garrett, Southern and Eastern Africa with T.S. Monk, and South America with Herbie Hancock. Throughout her stellar career, Lisa has and continues to share the spotlight with many other world-renowned artists, including Anita Baker, Clark Terry, Nina Freelon, Kenny Barron, Roy Hargrove, Kevin Mahogany, I miss Kevin, Frank Mantooth, Terry Lynn Carrington, and Wayne Shorter, to name a few. Then there are accomplishments such as appearing in the televised PBS special In Performance at the White House and BET documentaries and recording CDs, including, much to my joy, making a guest appearance on my recent album, The Drummer Loves Ballads. In fact, I wrote the one original composition on my album specifically with Lisa's voice in mind. It's a voice that many have compared to Sarah Vaughan, but Lisa is simply Lisa. She, more than any other singer I've known or worked with, is, in my opinion, a song stylist. She makes every song her own. But she's more than a performer. She's a jazz educator, working with students from preschool to university. She's also deeply involved in community and social equity work, often facilitating what she calls the ugly conversation about race in America. She has a beautiful heart, as well as a beautiful voice, and one of my all-time favorite smiles. Let me also note that not long ago, Lisa survived a life-threatening brain aneurysm. So, Lisa, when I say I'm glad you're here, I really mean I'm glad you're really still here.
Good to be here.
So welcome, Lisa.
Thank you so much.
That was a long wind-up for a conversation that's been a long time coming. We've been overdue to just sit and chat for a while. But I want to start with your take on that first memory. Did I get it right? Do you recall that Mary Ann's on Main gig? Does that sound about right to you?
Yes, it does. And I was smiling because, first of all, the fact that you remembered it, Beck. I'm sitting here, when was that? Oh, yeah. Oh, my gosh. And, you know, it's funny because as you're talking, I'm going down memory lane and I'm looking, my brain is doing all these little thumbnail snapshots of everything. And it's just incredible. I mean, you've been there through the whole thing. So yeah,
it's been a few years.
it's been a few years. So no, you actually got that right. Wow. What a ride.
Well, I mentioned Everett. For those who don't know him, he was this incredible B3 player and lost him a short time ago. He was a real mentor to you, if I recall.
Yes.
Correctly. How did you first connect with Everett, and what did he teach you? What did he bring to your formative years?
Oh gosh, that is such a big question. So let me talk about how we connected. It's actually quite funny. So my mother would bring me to jam sessions in Kansas City as she heard about them. And so there was one happening at the Epicurean Lounge. I'll never forget it.
Sure.
And so Everett did, I believe it was Sunday nights there. And so I signed up on a little piece of paper, I want to sing. And so on the break, my mother, she said, well, go up and talk to him. And, Everett was a very big, imposing man at that time. And of course, I later learned just the heart of gold and just very soft man. But he had that exterior. And I said, I'm not talking to him, Mom. You go ask him. And she said, you're the one who wants to sing. You got to learn to talk to people. And I mean, I'm 17 years old. Okay. So imagine a 17-year-old, totally green. I don't know anything. And Everette DeVan, and he's playing this, it's not only that he was imposing, the B3 was imposing. So
that instrument is a beast. Yeah.
Oh, it is a beast. And so I'm overwhelmed, really, because I had not, up to that time, I had only played with piano accompaniment. So to play with a B3 was like, what am I getting myself into? And who is this guy? So finally, I worked up the courage, and I'm gonna do my best Everette DeVan impression. He says, so I go up to him. I said, well, sir, I'd like to sing. He says, okay, what do you want to sing? I said, I'd like to sing Summertime. What's your key? So I gave him my key. I think I was in C.
I'm impressed you knew your key at age 17.
Right.
That's impressive.
Well, and yes. And let me tell you, so that's what he later told me impressed him, is that I came on the bandstand and I did know my key, because I didn't realize that many singers did not know their key when they came up. Yeah. And so after I sang, he liked what I did, and he had a vibraphonist, Kent Means, who was playing with him. And so Kent was very complimentary afterwards. So I just felt good that I got through this song, because again, I'm looking at this imposing instrument and this man who he just looks like, this gladiator of the B3,
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my God, am I going to do okay? And afterwards, he said, he told my mother, he said, please bring her back. And that's how everything literally started. Wow, I mean, it was just that simple.
And it's so important to have those people who give you even that first sliver of encouragement. I mean, look what it set into motion, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, I knew I could sing, but there's a very big difference now that I have wisdom. There's a very big difference, knowing and being comfortable in being able to sing and executing that in the musical environment with an audience, with a B3, with a vibe player, and being able to connect with band members. That was a new thing for me. And so your question of what Everett brought to me, what he taught me, this man taught me everything in terms of looking at the musical scene on the stage as a team player and looking at it from the vantage point of an instrumentalist. That was important because we would have rehearsals, and he would say to me, I'm going to turn you into an instrumentalist who happens to sing. Okay. Because he wanted me, there was that wisdom, and I didn't understand it then, but I later understood. I knew exactly why he did that, because he said, and I'll never forget it, it was so funny. We were in the middle of a song, we finished, he says, I need you to know something. We don't like singers. He said that to me. And so,
that's so funny.
And then after that, he says, and so you're going to be a singer who knows stuff. And by know stuff, he meant when the gig was over and I was in my little pretty shiny dress and I thought I could go home, he made me rap chords.
Yeah.
I mean, literally rapping chords.
Yeah.
Packing up, because I needed that, because I needed to see that, it's not all about just walking on the stage and walking off. He needed me to see how all of this was put together. He needed me to see that, yes, we got to break down the drums. We got to haul this stuff out. We got to haul it in. And that's the life. That's the part no one sees.
Yeah. But, those are such good lessons. And you're triggering a memory. Another mutual friend of ours, Julie Turner, who of course is such a legendary Kansas City jazz singer. I remember the first time I got on the gig with Julie, because so much of the time she worked with her husband Tommy on drums, which always made me jealous. He was an incredible player. but probably through Steve Miller, where you and I got a lot of work together as society band
Yes.
leader. I think it's probably when I started working with Julie as well. But I remember being so impressed in small group settings. She took complete control. She called the tunes that she wanted to sing. She set the tempo. She knew where she wanted them. She knew styles, and not to belittle other singers who maybe didn't learn those lessons, but there were gigs where there was a vocalist out front, but they were waiting for the band to run the show. And it's like, oh, well, whatever tempo you want to, I don't know my key, whatever. But it was so refreshing to work with people like you and Julie who had a vision for their own work and knew what they were doing as musicians.
Absolutely. Yes, you are. Those, oh gosh, the lessons that Everett taught me. And sometimes he taught me lessons and I wasn't too happy, but I got the lesson eventually. So he would ask me to count off a tune, right? And and he would play it exactly the way I counted it off. Oh. And then you're right? And then I'd say, maybe not. And so after he played it, he would tell me, okay, so we're on a bandstand. You count it off that way. That's how it's going to be. So you need to be very clear what you want from this tune, because as soon as you set it in motion, think of it as like, this rock going downhill. It's going to keep going. You don't get to stop 5 and 6 times and say, no, I don't think I like that. We have an audience in front of us. So in terms of being very clear with how I wanted to present my art, Everett really did that, because before then, I think I wasn't exactly one of those singers that would wait for the band. I had an idea of what I wanted to do, but didn't always know how to articulate it to the accompanist or to the musicians around me. I didn't know how to say, hey, John, can I have brushes on this?
Yeah, right. Right.
So he taught me that language. And so now I teach other singers the language. I teach them, okay, what do you want the drummer to do? How do you want the bass to sound? Because that's how I was taught. And so hopefully you'll see a crop of singers, if they've come through the Lisa Henry school of, vocal sensibilities, they'll know those things. They know their keys. They know how to set their own tempo. And that's so important. That is so important. And Everett did that for me, and I'm grateful.
Well, how special to have those lessons so intentionally brought to you, rather than just having to sort of pick it up gradually. I always admired him as a musician. I didn't know him in that role as a mentor, and I'm envious that you had that sort of experience with him. I think that's incredible. Let's actually give people a taste of your music so they know what we're talking about. We'll pause. We'll listen here for a moment. We'll come back and talk some more. And I'm actually, for those who follow these Easy Jazz Spotlights, you may know that we typically just play one cut. I'm planning to play 2 on this show because there's sort of a unique opportunity, at least when I just discovered as we were chatting, getting ready for the show. The first time we recorded together would have been 1994 for your demo for the Thelonious Monk competition. And I happen to have a digital copy of that cassette tape from 1994. Wow. And then later in the show, we'll play our more recent recording outing together on my album. But let's listen to It Was Just One of Those Things. And Lisa, help me remember. I was on drums. It was Gerald Spates on bass, right?
Yes.
And was it Dan DeLuca on piano?
I believe it was Dan. May he rest in peace. Dan DeLuca, yes.
Incredible guy, all over the keyboard, and you sounded terrific. So let's pause and listen to Just One of Those Things. This is Lisa Henry's demo for the Monk Institute competition in 1994.
It was just one of those things, just one of those fabulous flings, one of those bells that now and then ring, just one of those things. It was just one of those nights, just one of those fabulous flights, a trip to the moon on gossamer wings, just one of those things. If we thought a bit of the end of it when we started painting the town, we'd have been aware that this love affair was too hot not to cool down. So goodbye, 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 dear, and amen. Here's hoping that we meet every now and then. It was great fun, but it was just one of those things. It was just one of those things. Just one of those fabulous flings. One of those bells that now and then ring. Just one of those things. It was just one of those nights. Just one of those fabulous flights. A trip to the moon on gossamer wings. Just one of those things. If we thought a bit of the end of it when we started painting the town, we'd have been aware that this love affair was too hot not to cool down. So goodbye, 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 dear, and amen. Here's hoping that we meet every now and then. It was great fun, but it was just one of those things. It was great fun, but it was just one of those.
That was Lisa Henry, from her demo for the Thelonious Monk Jazz Vocals Competition in 1994 with a bit of a burner. It was just one of those things. I remember being a little scared of that tempo, but it was. But you know what strikes me, Lisa, when we listen to it today, what strikes me is your musicality and your musicianship and your professionalism. I know you're going to tell me has matured with wisdom over all these years, but your voice still has that breezy, easygoing, fluid, flexible feel to it. I don't feel like there's any vocal quality that's diminished over the years. I mean, that goes back 30 years, right?
Wow.
Almost
yes.
30 years. Are you intentional about the way you take care of your voice? And would you agree, or do you feel like your voice has changed?
You know, that's an interesting question. So I remember I took a semester of opera training when I was younger, about 19 or 20. And I'll never forget my instructor, Dr. Bill Kruzmart, wonderful man. He told me, and now I'm a young woman, he says, you're not going to hear your best voice until you're in about your 40s or 50s.
Really?
That's what he told me. Yes. And so what I did in 94, when I look back at some of those recordings, and then I listened to your CD and at the Trocadero, he was right. He was absolutely right. So I feel like the voice is it's mellowing a little bit more.
Yeah.
It's
even richer, isn't it?
Yeah, it's doing its thing, and
yeah.
I kind of follow where it's going. I have lower notes now, and it's
Yeah.
a little bit sexier, you know.
Hard to imagine it being even sexier.
But yeah, it's been an interesting journey as a singer to watch the vocal quality, take shape. And of course, with the wisdom, I now feel like I have more things to say musically because I've lived, and so you put that with the fact that the voice is deepening and doing some extra things. I think it gives it a different artistic quality. I really do.
That's interesting. And I hadn't really thought about the fact that there is a sort of a natural, I guess a lot of singers, they have to maybe change some keys as they get older, as their voice ages a little bit. And, but mainly what I just hear is it hasn't cracked. It hasn't tightened up. You haven't lost your ability to do any of the wonderful things that I remember enjoying 30 years ago as well. And I'm thinking about, we recently lost Tony Bennett.
Yes.
And a lot of the obituaries and write-ups, they talked about how he had his bel canto exercises that he continued to practice even in his final years. Do you go through vocal exercises? Are you very careful about what you drink and how you care for it? I mean, because it does seem people who are intentional about taking care of their voice are rewarded for it later on.
Absolutely. And I will be totally transparent. I I try very hard to get into a set routine of, doing the vocal exercises when I should. I I'm not as good with that as I should be.
Yeah, none of us
Um,
are. I know. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, when you're younger, you're always practicing and doing things, and then life begins to life, and you're just okay. I'll kind of fit it in when I can.
Yeah.
But now I will tell you, my exercises now they they center more around, for example, songs that I've always wanted to do very well, but never quite got them, you know? And so if there's like a scat section, or even if it's an instrumental section, I was listening to Freddie Freeloader,
Hmm.
Miles Davis. And so I try to scat the horn line, or I try to
Nice.
scat, the saxophone. So I'm doing things like that to strengthen my ear, and also, strengthen my scat skills and all of that. So I do those things, and again, it's thinking in terms of being an instrumentalist as
Mm.
opposed to just although I'm not just a vocalist, but I just feel like when I attack things from that angle, then it makes me a better vocalist, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and there's several things in there I want to follow up on. So let's come back to, you mentioned things that tunes that you want to sort of conquer, or approach that you have
Hmm.
before. I want to hear more about what some of those pieces are, and what's kept you from them so far. But let's start with, you talk about scat singing, and that's one of the signature elements that you bring to your music.
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting to me, even among newer singers, and well, I don't know that it's generational, but scatting doesn't seem to be as popular as it once was, or as embraced. Or you might get a little sort of, moment of it from somebody who's got a few licks, but not really cultivated as an ongoing part of their skill set. And it's always been a big part of what you do and do so well. Where did that come
Mm.
from for you?
Oh gosh, I've always loved it, and I loved it when I couldn't do it. I mean, it was, I was really, and that's
Yeah.
always been. And I'll tell you, um, this probably started when I was around in eighth grade, and this is no lie here. I listened to I listened to a lot of Ella Fitzgerald and a lot of Sarah Vaughan, and I was in awe of how they could switch so effortlessly from a song that had no scat to then
Yeah.
burning on the scat and
Yeah.
matching with the horn play. I mean, I thought to myself, that's the difference between being an employee and a business owner, okay? A business owner can not only sing the song but scat when necessary, and trade fours with the horn player, with the bass
Right.
player, with
Right.
everybody around them. And I said, and even not knowing it, John, because again, I'm in eighth grade, so I don't have the vocabulary to
Right.
really explain what I'm experiencing, but instinctually I knew if I wanted to be a singer of a higher caliber, that was the template. It was Sarah Vaughan, it was Ella Fitzgerald, it was Carmen McRae. That was the template. So
Yeah.
I set out to, every time I felt a little uncomfortable, I would try it again, and I kept trying it and trying it. And some of my earlier scats were awful. Thank God I didn't record all the early stuff. But
That's how we learn.
as I started listening to more instrumentalist, and this is really the key. And even like when I scat now, I do a lot of things with drummers. So
Hmm.
like, if let's say Mike Warren, who's a wonderful drummer here, he'll do a pattern on the drum, and I will scat in the same pattern that he just played. So yeah, so those things, I felt like John, I never wanted to be, quote, just a singer.
Right.
I wanted to be an artist. And there's
Yeah.
a difference.
Yeah.
There's a
Yeah.
difference.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And actually, I'm going to call an audible here, and I'm going to throw in another clip that we hadn't discussed. But we had a very cool experience when we were in the studio together a few years ago working on my album, and we had planned at the Trocadero, which I'll play here momentarily, as a feature for you. But in the studio, I had mentioned to John Cushon, wonderful mutual friend, drummer,
Mm-hmm.
producer. Gosh, I've always thought about doing just like a drum and vocal thing. Maybe Lisa and I can do something. He's like, yeah, that's cool. Let's, ask her whatever. We were on a break. I had gone to the restroom. You were still in the booth, and you just started just making some sounds.
Yep.
And I stepped out of the restroom, and Kushan grabbed my arm and was like, get in there. I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, just shut up, get in there and play. And you and I started doing this interaction together. So actually, I'm gonna let's take a break real quick and pop in a little piece of Messing Around, which was the name we gave it because you said,
Messing
I was
around.
just messing
I
around.
love that.
But let's let people hear a little bit of this drum and scat kind of stuff that you're talking about because it was so much fun to do together. This is Lisa
It
Henry
was fun.
and me on a spontaneous take in the studio called Messing Around. Here we go.
Bum bum, ba-da-doo, bang bang ding, do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do, bum-da-doo-be-le-doo-dee, shall you de bum de bum do, bum-da-doo-de-do-de-do, bang 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 ding, dan-do-dee-da-ding-ding-ding, bang bum-da-doo-be-lo-ding-ding-ding, shoo-do-do-do-do, shoo-dum-bell-dum-ding-ding-ding, shoo-do-be-lo-be-lo-be.
I think that's great.
I was just messing around.
No, that's cool.
That was so much fun.
That was so much fun. So much fun. Really a highlight memory for me. People talk about what makes jazz jazz. And of course, one of the fundamental principles is improvisation and spontaneity. And, Kushan and I were very careful in mapping out this album. That was the moment of most unfettered joy of let's just get in and make some music together. And it's a great taste for people of your scatting abilities. So, but speaking of recording, so you had done 2 CDs, which I think are both out of print, unfortunately. But there was Live from 18th and Vine and Jam Session, I believe, right?
Yes.
Are there places you would encourage people to go check out other recordings that you're on that they can hear now?
Yeah, right. Well, so here's what my plan is. So now that we got the brain all together and everything,
we'll come back to that. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and I'm going to be doing a lot more recording. So I just ask people to be very patient. If you want to see me sing anything, you can go on to YouTube. There are lots of YouTube clips out there.
Great videos. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So just go ahead and punch in Lisa Henry, but I'm very hopeful. At least within the next year and a half, all of those past albums will be back in print. And
great.
That's the hope. So but definitely I miss recording so much. And so now, hey, life has given me some new lyrics. So stay tuned.
Let's talk about what you've alluded to here. And I mentioned it in the introduction, but we almost lost you a couple of years ago. You had a brain aneurysm, and tell us about that experience and what it's meant to you as an artist to go through something so serious and to recover from it, and to then continue living life with that in your rearview mirror.
Wow, that's that. Well, you said a mouthful. That is always in my always in my rearview mirror. It always is. And let me tell you, I am as humbled as a human being can possibly be. When you have danced with death, and that's exactly what it was. Yeah, you come out of that experience changed, and it's very interesting because sometimes I can't have these conversations as deeply as I want to, because people kind of oh my God, she's weird, she's gone all weirdly spiritual. But the thing is, and yes, I am a spiritual person. One of the things I know for sure is that there is a force greater than myself, because that is why I am here today. It's not because my body was so strong and it just fought death off. No. When you're talking about issues of the brain, that's very sensitive. And the fact that, it happened and I'm cured, and by cured, I mean they could put a coil in that spot so that I wouldn't bleed out, and I can talk to you in full sentences and not need a speech therapist, which a lot of people do.
Right.
That's nothing less than a miracle to me. And the way that it happened, I remember the day so well. It was on the 9th of December, and we were looking forward to having, the regular teachers' time off during the holidays. So every teacher I knew was kind of dragging, we're tired, we're really, but that just kind of goes with it. And so my son, I remember he kept telling me, Mom, you're just looking a little more worn out than usual. Why don't you stay home? And he told me that a couple of days. And this particular day, I listened to him. I said, you know what? I'm going to take your advice. I am going to listen to you. So I said, well, I'm home all day. What can I do? Because I like to be productive. I said, well, I do need to do a little bit of grocery shopping. So I drove myself to the grocery store, came back home, parked the car. When I reached for the groceries on the passenger side, that's when it happened.
Wow.
So so I look at all of these things as just sheer miracles. The fact that it didn't happen as I was driving to or from, and I had enough energy to walk to where my neighbor was and tell her to please call. Now she happened to be outside, just, outside catching it just all of these things.
Now, what were you experiencing? Was it this explosive pain, or was it a vision issue? Or
this is the thing. It was like a very bad headache, and I don't normally get headaches.
Yeah,
it's just not something that I normally experience. And it was in the back of my head, and then everything went gray and then black.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was a surreal experience that I can't, the only way that I can explain it, it would be like, walking down a dark hallway, and you hear people, but you can't respond back. You can't do anything. It's like being, sort of locked in your own body. And I remember the paramedics. They asked me, my son's name, where he worked, and, just kind of what day it was, just trying to see where I was.
Yep.
But then I went back in to this sort of dark grayish place. But the interesting thing about it, because I always thought, because I'm such a scary cat about, anything, spiders, everything. And I thought, okay, I'll probably be scared to death. I probably would be. And interestingly enough, when I was in that sort of dark grayish black valley, whatever that was, there was no fear.
No kidding. That's fascinating.
There was no fear, and I can't explain it to you. I don't know what that was. Like I said, there was something higher than myself. Now, when I tell people the story, I said, well, so this is why I got to stay. This is my version of it. So Gabriel came down. He saw that I was all laid out and, unresponsive. So he goes up to God and he says, okay, we got her down there. What do you want me to do with her? And so God says, oh, Lisa Henry, the one with the big mouth, who's still fighting for justice and all that stuff. And she's kind of a rabble rouser sometimes. No, leave her down there because I got stuff to do up here and she'll get in the way and she'll want to change curtains and everything. So no, let her stay. And so that's how I got to stay.
Well, we're very appreciative of all involved. Now, I know you had great medical care. You've talked about it in social media.
Yes.
Your doctors were amazing, and
St. Luke's Hospital, Dr. Martin. Yes,
that's so great to hear. And I don't want to minimize the recovery, but I want to leap ahead here a little bit because I'm sure that there was a lot of medical stuff and things that you had to do to sort of get back on your feet.
Yes.
But what were your thoughts about music as you were recovering and taking steps out of the black and gray and back into a little bit of the daylight, so to speak? What role did music play for you at that point?
Oh my gosh. Well, I will tell you, that was one of my biggest fears when I finally came to. I had to be intubated. So once they took the tube out and they started to do various therapeutic exercises with me, I was concerned. I said, okay, am I going to remember music? Am I going to remember song lyrics? And those basic things, because that's where I live,
Sure.
I live in the lyrics. So a beautiful thing happened. My son had come to the hospital after another grueling day of working and taking college courses. He's such a rock star to me. And so he brought, he put on his playlist a whole bunch of Christmas songs. And so the way the story goes, I sang Christmas songs in my sleep from about 7 p.m. all the way close to midnight.
Is that right?
Yes. All the nurses say, yeah, you just kept singing and singing and singing.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Yeah, I didn't know that.
And so when my son saw me, he told him, he said, yeah, she's going to be all right because she knows all the Christmas songs. And yeah, that's
beautiful. That's amazing.
Yeah, that was one of those real godlike moments because, everything is up there. I mean, and it's crazy. I was telling a friend of mine the other day, I said, you don't really think about your brain often, do you? I mean, it's just there. Yeah. And you don't think about it until something like this happens. And so, it was amazing. And Christmas is one of my favorite times of year. So, that was a big deal. So I was very excited. The medical team was very excited because they knew that my cognitive ability was still there. And I was remembering things. It was amazing. So wow. I was just so happy. Gosh.
Well, I can only imagine, and I am too. I'm glad you're still singing and swinging. And I want to connect a couple of dots. You're talking about your spiritual orientation, that sort of thing. And if I remember correctly, you were raised in a Baptist church.
Yes.
Did that influence your musical taste or experience at all?
Absolutely. Absolutely. One of the things that I learned in the Baptist church, because there is a lot of improvisation going on, is the ear training. So even when people didn't know their key, they could hear what was going on. So having that Baptist background and of course growing up in a home where my mother was playing Aretha Franklin, Al Green, she was playing real singers,
Yeah.
She was playing the good stuff. So yeah, in between that and the Baptist church, and that was also during a time where there were a lot of music programs in schools. So I was lucky enough to be in school systems that had music. So I call it my 360 music experience as I was growing up. I had it in the church, I had it in school, I had it at home. So I love that. Yeah, I think that that's a real blessing. It's a real blessing.
It's incredible to hear about these various influences and to think about how your modern influences or later professional influencers came from such incredible A-list celebrities. So, you talk about these early days of the church, your mom at home, school teachers, and those are powerful, meaningful influences for all of us. But then you go on this journey, you do the monk competition, you get recognition, you start doing these things, and next thing you know, now it's not the church and mom and school, it's Herbie and Wayne and Kenny. I mean, and it's crazy. So I want to play a little rapid fire round here with you. I want to give you a name of somebody you've been involved with in your professional career that's influenced you or that you've performed with, and I want you to give us just like a couple of top thoughts, memories, wisdom. Let's start with Rosemary Clooney.
Oh my
what
gosh.
comes to mind for you for Rosemary Clooney?
Oh gosh, Rosemary was funny. She was amazing, complimentary. Her stories. Rosemary was a storyteller. I love her. She tells this wonderful story of going to Italy and meeting the Pope. Now, again, with Rosemary, I didn't know if it was true or not, but she had everybody in stitches. Well, no, she met the Pope. That part is true. So,
okay.
so she says she goes up. She goes to meet the Pope. She's doing the whole, nice to meet you, Your Holiness, and the Pope sneezes. And she says, bless you. And so her story is, I bless the Pope. So
I love it. She's one of my, you can't listen to her or watch her movies without just wishing you'd had a chance to be her friend. That's
oh my God.
I always get with her.
Well, and I have to tell you this, and this is such a, I tear up when I think about this. I'll try not to do it on your show, but, Rosemary, I met her, we were doing a program in Aspen, Colorado, and Rosemary, just the most gracious woman. I mean, she was genuinely gracious. People say things in this business and they don't really mean them, Yeah. And so I'll never forget working with her in Aspen, Colorado. And she heard me sing and she says, you got it. You just need to do more gigs. And so she, at the time, there was this real big band resurgence, and she said, I need to put you in touch with blah, 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 blah. Now, again, I'm like, wow, this is Rosemary Clooney saying this to me. And that means that this woman had a musical history and just a history that is just amazing. And so as we were leaving, she said, I'm going to be in Kansas City. When I get to Kansas City, I'm going to look you up.
Wow.
And, I thought, okay, she's just being nice and, being gracious. She came to Kansas City. I get a phone call. Can you be at the Rosemary Clooney concert tonight? She would like you to share the stage. I said, oh my God.
That's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, just, let me tell you, it's stuff like that, when I think about it, I just shudder, because it's like, that really happened to me. And with that gesture, and she followed through on it. She has no idea. She would never have an idea of how that just restored my faith in just everything, especially in this business.
Yeah, especially in this business, to have that kind of genuine humanity.
Yes.
I love that. Well, let's jump to Herbie Hancock.
Oh gosh. Ooh, Herbie. He is walking musical philosophy in motion. Let me tell you, Herbie, I learned so much from this man. Quick story about Herbie. We were in some place, we were doing a program somewhere in the Midwest. I don't know where, I forget. And there was a convention in town. So most of the high-end hotel rooms were taken up. Okay. And the only place left was the Ramada Inn. Okay. Herbie has a way of teaching 24/7 without telling you he's teaching you something, right? So of course there are some young instrumentalists who are on the gig, and so of course their chests are out. I'm with Herbie Hancock, blah blah blah.
Yeah, sure.
And so, but we're at the Ramada Inn is the only hotel that has rooms. That Herbie, of course, is beyond that. He is used to presidential suites, etc. So everybody was nervous because there was no other place to stay, and they didn't, they wanted Herbie to be comfortable, etc. And so all of the team was like, oh my God, we're going to have to tell Herbie that we're at the Ramada Inn. And oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And so we all happened to be standing there when the announcement got made that this is the only place to stay. And Herbie said, okay, cool. Now, Herbie Hancock said, okay, cool. Let me tell you what the lesson was there. And just an amazing lesson in humility. If Herbie Hancock is cool, everybody's cool. Everybody's cool.
Yeah.
Nobody,
That's great.
no one should have any problems with anything. And, I don't want to, no, Herbie has a way of teaching you about humility by just how he lives his life.
That's beautiful. And I got to believe that comes through in the music as well. I mean, that's
yes.
That generosity, that flexibility, that authenticity. Yes. Let's shift gears here towards the end. I'm going to quickly cut to our last musical selection. I want to play for people At the Trocadero, which was the piece that you sang on my album. Thank you very much for that.
Yes.
And this was lyrics I wrote about my parents and their early days of falling in love at a jazz club in Kansas City and through their older years. And Wayne Hawkins, the piano player on the album, did a wonderful composition to the lyrics, and you made it all come alive with Doug Talley on tenor sax. The two of you together were amazing. You. But to me, it's kind of fun to play a piece from 30 years ago that we recorded and play this piece that we recorded just a few years ago. Let's listen to that, and then we'll come back and wrap up with a couple of news updates from you on what's coming up next. So here is Lisa Henry on my album, The Drummer Loves Ballads, with a composition called At the Trocadero. Let's take a listen.
The night was young, and so was their future. His Chevy coupe pulled up to the club. The music swung that sepia summer, a soundtrack for two people in love. Glowing with light, the club Trocadero, cocktails and jazz, that cool 50s craze. Dancing was tight in front of the trio, music so smooth, just room to sway. Saxophone hums around them like cashmere. So long ago, those memories began. Time never slows its bittersweet mission. The trio's gone, and they no longer dance. to hear, just like it was back then, when nights were young. At the Trocadero, when nights were young, yeah. At the Trocadero, Millie and Frank would sway all night at the Trocadero. Saxophone like cashmere at the Trocadero.
So that was At the Trocadero featuring Lisa Henry. And nothing's wrong with your video screen. Lisa did not walk into the light. She turned on the light. We've been talking so long. And I love that about these kind of just informal, these are not polished television productions, but these informal conversations we have. The sun was literally going down on Lisa. We've been talking so long. So she flipped on the light, and it's nice to see you again here in the light.
Good to see you.
But let's wrap up things with, you were sharing with me before we started to record a few nuggets about your ongoing relationship with the Institute, which has now become the Herbie Hancock Institute, right?
Yes.
Talk a little bit about what you've got coming up with them and where people might have a chance to see you and what you'll be doing.
Oh my gosh. There's always exciting stuff happening with the Herbie Hancock Institute of Jazz. They're just, wow. And I'm very blessed to have, from that demo tape 30 years ago, I'm coming upon a 30-year relationship with the Institute.
That's amazing.
I've been very privileged to really travel the world with them. What's coming up, they have, I believe, the piano competition is going to be coming up very, very soon. And this year it's going to be in New York. Normally it's at the Smithsonian in Washington, D.C. So it'll be in New York this year. And they are honoring Diane Reeves, the amazing Diane Reeves.
God.
My God.
Wonderful.
Every time I say her name, it's like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And,
that's
yeah.
special.
Yes. And so I'm going to be a part of that. And I'm very, very excited about that. And then, I'll probably be touring again with them in the spring. We normally do the Jazz in America peer-to-peer program, where we go to a state and we pick out a school district, and we're there for a week to, teach the kids about jazz, about just, everything that has to do with music, what they want to do in life. It becomes more of, just an encouragement, because the young people who are traveling with the Institute, these are high school players playing at a top level. So the kids in the audience get to see kids their age playing this
wonderful.
music.
That's incredible.
Yeah. And normally there's a guest artist who also joins me. Last year it was Sean Jones was on the tour, wonderful trumpet player. And let's see here. Oh goodness, his name is escaping me. I feel so bad. I'll remember it later. But
okay.
Yeah, so they always have a guest artist. In the past, it's been Antonio Hart. It's been Christian McBride would tour along with us. So what's nice is the young players, we kind of acclimate them to what life would be like on the road for real.
Nice.
And so, yeah, so they're they're having the 6 a.m. wake up calls. They got to have their stuff packed downstairs at the lobby. Yeah, they get to experience all of that.
You seem especially dedicated to the next generation of musicians. Is that just, I don't know, are you a teacher at heart? Is that fair to say?
I am. I'm a mushy mama teacher. You know me, John. I'm just, yeah. It is. It's funny because I tell people if this whole music thing hadn't worked out, I probably would be celebrating 30 years as a teacher and about to retire.
Yeah.
I bring it full circle to Everette DeVan. He poured a lot into me. And so, and I remember something T.S. Monk said to us when we were on the road. He said, you're obligated to pass this on because the jazz masters of the past, they passed it on. So you don't get to sit with this and take it with you. You must pass it on.
That's such a beautiful thought, a beautiful way to wrap up our time together and let those thoughts linger and ring in people's ears. You did bring it full circle. And I'm so grateful to you, Lisa. I'm grateful to you for being a part of my musical journey and for not just doing my album. That was sweet. But, I have these memories of looking up from setting up my drums at Plaza 3 in Kansas City and seeing Lisa walk in. I'm like, oh, it's going to be a good gig. She's on this one too. This is great, But grateful to you
mutual.
For all of this and for taking time out to share your thoughts and experiences on Easy Jazz Spotlight. It's a wonderful series of videos that the folks at Easy Jazz FM are putting out on YouTube for people to learn from others, discover new music, get inspired by artists. And I thank you for doing all of that today on today's show.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for having me as always. I miss you so much around here in Kansas City, but I see you doing great things on the West Coast. And yes, everything you said goes right back to you. I think of all of the amazing instrumentalists. And I have to say this because it was the instrumentalists who really are responsible for making me who I am. The fact that I could listen to you and ask questions and, all of that was a part of my growth. So, I always say that a vocalist never comes to her fullness by herself. She's surrounded by a drummer, a bass player, a piano player, a saxophonist who's a part of that growth. So I thank you.
You're sweet. We all need each other. Well, Lisa, thank you. It's farewell for now. I can't wait to talk to you again soon. And everybody, thanks for checking out Easy Jazz Spotlight. We'll talk soon. Bye-bye.
All right. Thanks. Bye-bye.